I'm really glad you've taken the time out to investigate looking at pursuing your performance management journey. This is a follow-up to Graham Kenny's CFO Academy workshop on performance measurement. So the CFO Academy was the conceptual part. Today, we're going to look at how to address Graham's themes within a product. This product is called BALD. So for those of you that don't know it, BALD is a corporate performance management tool set. And in that, we can address a variety of performance perspectives and all within a single product. Okay, so I'm just going to set the scene here. And really, it's on the background to the problem as far as systems are concerned. You may remember this slide from the Academy. And really, it's the out-of-balance nature of the investment that we really, and energy that we put into our transactional systems, as opposed to something like what we're talking about today, which is systems of differentiation. And systems of differentiation, as we often see, are characterized by being done in Excel. Now, in Excel, the reason we use Excel is because we can accommodate a high rate of change. Typically, in our transactional systems, like our finance systems and ERP systems, we have them for several years, and we don't really change it. But conversely, it doesn't accommodate things that we want to do in our business on a day-to-day basis. So our transactional systems are our systems of record, and it doesn't allow us to make transformational changes. It's ruled by things like debits and credits and rules, and doesn't really allow us to enable a vision. So that's the background to a problem. And also, in that same vein, data in our transactional systems, as we can see here, like our finance and payroll system, is just not optimized for these things like BI, setting KPIs, doing strategic budgeting and reporting. In order to do that, we need to transform it to make it more easily accessible. So if you see on this side here, we can see our transactional databases, and they are quite complex structures. The focus is on data entry, and it's on being auditable and record keeping. So we need to, first of all, get into a nice, easily accessible environment, and something which is optimized, like a database, which is optimized for doing budgeting and planning and strategic target setting. So things like we've got large volumes of data. We need to be able to get that from our transactional systems, whether it's operational ERP systems, finance systems. And in that environment, we need to be able to easily edit it, create new data. We need to be able to read that data very simply and quickly. It's got to be fast. It's got to be something we can really access and make changes and get an immediate result. It's going to be an environment where we hold our historical data, what has happened, what is currently happening, and also where we can create forecasts about the future, what we expect or plan to happen. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. And to do that, we need to take our data out into a specialized database. Now, this is often what we do in Excel. So let's just run through quickly what are some of those things that we're doing. So first of all, what we need to do is to get our data into memory. Now, in Excel, this doesn't happen. So as soon as we bring the data into our specialized database, which we're going to look at today, it's something where it's immediately refreshed. We can just open a report, and it's immediately there. It auto-consolidates. Now, Excel, for instance, doesn't know who we are. It doesn't know what security to give us. So in this environment, it's role-based. It knows who you are. And of course, in Excel, you can only really have one person doing something at a time. And it's not online. And also, centralized administration. We want an environment where we can do something, and it updates and shows everyone in our process is immediately updated. So if I want to close something, I want to close a version, I want to update something, immediately it's addressed everywhere. And of course, what happens in Excel is that people start working on old versions, things which are not part of our current process. Excel is also error-prone, so we need data integrity. But also, what we can't do very well in Excel, which we can easily do in this environment, is that create new alternative views. We'll call it versioning. We create a new version. And also what we want to be able to do, we need to recognize that there are many people involved in the process. So we need a workflow. We need to have a very flexible way of bringing people into a process, like planning is a process. It involves many different people. And we also need to be able to have very flexible ways of entering data, not just like in Excel where we only really have the option of entering from the lowest like product or customer. We need to be able to see it at different levels of organization. So what we saw in the seminar, this is what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at two examples. One involved in planning. That's going to be our first example. And then we're going to jump to one around strategy formulation, setting a strategic framework, scorecards, and strategy maps. Now, it's going to have some elements like in reporting and analysis in there, but primarily we're going to see that we can do every one of these parts of our performance management cycle within the same product, and that's the key thing today. You can start anywhere, but the same tool set will do strategy as it will do planning. Okay, so we're going to look at what I call a capability demonstration. So first of all, let's look at some of the capabilities. We're going to look at data entry, the flexibility involved in that. There's many different ways we can create new data, enter data, and that's going to be key for any situation. We're going to show how we can set targets, that we have automatic roll-ups and consolidations, which allows us to enter at different levels of organization. And we're going to show you a process, a planning process, which is going to show us visualization. We're also going to use drivers, like percentages and quantities times price, because we don't want to be always having to use the end result. You're going to see the blended BI approach of board, how every step of the way we're bringing dashboards and information to the users to help them. And finally, you're going to see all this achieved through a toolkit approach. So a single toolkit which has multiple purposes. Okay, so we're going to step into the product now. Okay, so what you should see on the screen now is a process visualization of a budget process, a planning process. So what we're going to show here is we can visualize any process. This one happens to be a linear one. It's one happening after the other. But if you have like a flow diagram, you can literally copy-paste that into an environment here, and behind each of these buttons will take you through into a different screen. And of course, it's controlled then, like we have to do one thing before another, or two things can happen in time. And we have here, we can see the status of the process. So we can see how many are in progress, submitted, rejected. So we've got a very clear view of our entire planning process. So we're going to start in this part here, which is the preliminary. This is the target setting phase where we start off a very high-level view, and then we're going to disperse that into the next stage out to, in this case, salespeople. They are going to do their bit, so they're going to have things controlled very much and seeing things the way they need to. We're then just going to see how that takes to another set of people who are downstream, so the quantity that of product that they sell, they then need to set a price. Then we're going to show how we can also create new things, because planning, we need to create new things. We're going to quickly see the approval cycle, so we can see the process in action there. We're going to skip a couple of these steps, like costs, but then we're going to go and see the end result of all this building up over time, our planning process feeding all the way into a profit and loss. And then finally on this, we're just going to show you how versions, how easy it is to manage and create versions, which is one of those things which is typically very difficult. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to jump into the first step of this process here. And this is my first high-level planning process here. And as you can see, first of all, what we have here, the way we structure this is companies. So we have one and two companies, many companies. Of course, the data is just very simplified. And beneath that here, we have a channel, like a distribution outlet. So it's very high level. We're not down to products or customers or anything at the minute. And all I'm simply going to do now is, what you can see, if I just click on this button, all I'm going to do is take last year's actuals, which you can see there in white next to it, and update and make it 10% bigger. Now, a very blunt, simple approach there. In reality, you would do something more sophisticated, but just for simplicity's sake here, we're just taking a very simple approach. You can have matrices involved in this at the cost center department level and so on. So I'm just going to show you a few data entry tricks here, first of all. Now, first of all, you can see I'm sitting on a total here. So the first thing I'm doing in Excel, of course, there'll be a formula. I'm going to just change that and enter. And what you see immediately there is that I'm entering a total company level, and yet what's happened is that result has splashed down through the entire model. Now, in this case here, we can see it at the high level of distribution channel, but beneath that, it would have gone right down to the customer, the individual product, and so on. Now, another thing we can do here is I can show you there's a little tool here where I can lock a cell or a number of cells. So I'm going to lock that 400 because I want to keep that number, but then there might be a couple of things I want to change. So I'm just going to change this to direct from 80 to, say, 85,000. And what's happened there is that the number at the bottom is kept the same. We've locked that. But that 5,000 has now been distributed amongst all the elements beneath it in an equal way. So I'll just undo that for now and save that change. So this is an example of us being able to enter at any level that we want to. So first of all, we're setting the high-level targets, and you can also see in here how we've access to previous year's data all in one place. Okay, so I'm now going to jump to the next step. This is going to be dispersed to my budget holders. In this case, it'll be some salespeople. And you immediately notice here, first of all, we've got a couple of charts and graphs, which we can have a look at in a sec, which help me make decisions. I can see the channels here, but I'm looking here at much more minute data. I'm looking at the product level. I'm looking at much more at the lower level. So I'm going to change my company. As you see, I can just select the company and immediately get the access to the data that I want to. You can see I can have other filters here. I'm an administrator, so I can see everything, but if I was just this person, I would only have access to my own data. And you can see that I'm in progress, so I'm actually still carrying out my budget. Now I'm going to show you something here, data entry, flexibility again. This is something you can't do in Excel, but it's called a reverse algorithm. And what you can see here, we've got 10%, as we did earlier, just in the first step. There's my last year's, 6,400, and this is the new target. And it's calculated that out for us, the difference. So first of all, I'm just going to sit on my percentage level there, change that to say 12%, and you can see that both the delta and the total number change automatically. But I can also sit on any of these numbers, 6,000 maybe, make that one. And what you can see as well there is that it all flows through. And also finally, just to see it there, let's put a minus figure in, and it all flows through there. So that can be very handy in target setting because we can change a percentage, say, and then that's perhaps what we prefer to work with. You can also see here how we can attach notes and text. So in this case here, it's just like a Word document or an Excel document, which is just something which supports the figures that I'm doing, and that shows all the way through. I'm just going to show you here also for data entry how these widgets here are objects. I can also drill down into these. Okay, so I'm just going to show another data entry view here. And what you see here again is the flexibility of the data entry templates. Now, this one is by customer and month going across here. And what I'm going to do, first of all, is to show you how easy it is for someone to be able to change something. So this is at the customer level. If I right-click and layout, I may choose to say I don't want to see that at customer level. I want to see that by, say, product. And I'm doing this as a self-service end user. And immediately you see the items come up on the screen. So the entry template is totally user-definable. Now, also, I'm going to show you the interaction with Excel there. So I can export any screen that I have up into Excel, and I actually have exactly the same functionality available in Excel to what I have available in Board. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the same numbers that I've seen there, and also I'm sitting on a total here, like this 360. Now I can still change numbers in here. Let's make that 10,000 so we can see a clear change. And underneath that, you can see all the numbers have changed, or of course I can change. And there's a board add-in here. And when I save it, it will write it back directly to the database. And I also still have access like to all the products and all the everything that we have in board there. So if we look at that 10,000 there and go straight back to board, you should see there's the number 10,000 immediately in there. Okay, so we're just going to go now to the third step. And this is just the next step in the process, and this is just someone able now to set pricing. So when it's in white, it's been done and it's locked, and I also have the ability to submit. And just as showing here, all these graphs there, if I just want to focus in on a particular month where I'm interested in, I can drill down into that in any way I like and immediately see the data that underlines that. And it also refreshes it in that way, you see, and every object on the screen refreshes. So I just press submit because maybe I've done that now, and you see it's all gone white and it's gone to a status of submitted. Okay, fourth step, we're just going to add a new product. Now, we'll say product here, but it can be anything that's new, because when we're planning, there's always new things, like new capital expenditure, new projects or programs that we may be considering. And across the organization, we might want to just consolidate everything that's being added. And all I need to do is add, insert a new member, create a code and description, and then I can assign it like to a group, whatever we deem it is needed. Then what we can do is, when they're all consolidated, we can choose which one of these like initiatives, say, are going to go through, and which ones aren't, because we can see the total effect on like the final reports, like a profit and loss. And so we might want to just play with that until we get the result we want. Now into the approval cycle, just to show you here how we can see everyone involved in the process. So this is any planning or strategic management process, and we can see here how we can reject and approve from here. We're interacting with emails, so perhaps if I've been approved, then an email is sent back to the originator saying it's been approved. Okay. In my adjust stage here, all this is showing is how I now have all the data is coming in from across the organization, and I can really see it building up in real time. And I can focus in on, say, one channel and just see, like here, we can look at this is the product group, for instance, down here, and we can see very quickly the percentages. And I can still write down into these percentages and change them at that level there, and push that result down into the organization. It's going to come right through now to the profit and loss, reading it. And we've got the results right down to EBIT here, because we've got the costs, we've done the costs with sales, and we've done all the expenses. And immediately we're getting these sort of graphs here where we can see the EBIT data, say, compared to last year, the difference, the delta in percent. But what's really interesting here now is traditionally in budget process, when you've consolidated information, like sales here is a figure of 41,000, we have no idea how that figure is made up. It's just the result of many spreadsheets. But from here, you can see how I can drill down by any choice I make here. Like I've gone down by month, but I might say want to go down by from here by area manager, and then from area manager go down to customer. So we really can get down from that figure, and we can see these data is not very helpful here, but we can see and drill down on perhaps where a particular customer may be having that effect on the sales. Finally, in this process here, versioning. This is something typically very difficult to do in Excel, but in here, you can see here how we can add, and I can insert a new member and create, say, I want forecast number 4, say, or, you know, we're doing rolling forecast, say. So we'll do forecast 4. And just submit. And refresh. And you can see here now there's a forecast 4 created, and that will be blank, of course, at the minute, There it is there. It's all blank. But at any stage here, I've got all my access to all my versions here, and you'll see as I highlight those there, they'll appear in my report, so I can very quickly compare like forecasts with what is happening or what happened. And when I'm happy at the end of this process, I've got this ability here to save current planning, because here's the current planning column, which is the results of all my current planning process. And I may say, right, that's my final version, and then create that as budget final. Okay, so that's a quick planning process there, and we've seen some data entry and some versioning. I'm now going to show you some, dashboards and visualizations. It's the same data, and it's using the same tool set. And what I'm going to show you here, I'm going to show you the toolkit. Up here, I'll click on this button, and immediately you'll see a ribbon bar at the top. Now, everything in Board is created using the screens are from here. You can just drag and drop these screens in and create them by right within you can see there's object is created, and I can right-click, and I've got a layout, and we can define axes like area and so on, and what data we want to see in there. So that is available for every screen. So on here, for instance, we're getting some very high-level KPIs, margins here, and we can actually drill down on that in any way we want, by product, month, or whatever, in the way we've seen before. And you can keep drilling down. You can see where the margins have been high or low in the month. This is the bubble chart. The radius of the bubble is the net sales, and going up is the margin, and going across here is the percent growth increase. So we can get some very intelligent information there. And we can actually drill down into these bubbles, like you see there, so we can really identify a group. And of course, we've got the typical data views as well. And things like here, where we can just drag like that and just see a section of the data. Here's the channels here, and we can again just drag, and it just refreshes the data. We can see the impact on the margin, for instance, and a stack chart here on the costs, which type of costs there are and what they're made up of. So these are very simple to create in Board. Okay, now I'm going to go to my second example. So we're going to go what you might think is something completely different, which is strategic management settings, performance management in the setting targets and KPIs. And what you see here now, we call this strategic planning, and it's exactly the same environment. You see we've got the same edit mode here, the same toolkit that we're using throughout. And we have a different screen here. And you can see we can still have access to our reporting and planning processes, but we're adding three. We're looking at three here. We're going to look at a balance scorecard and a strategy map. Okay, so this is just a simplified version, just to get the point across. But what we have here, we're going to set a framework for our strategy settings. We're then going to set targets within there, and we're going to monitor our progress towards those targets. So just a very simple, fast through this. So first of all, framework settings. So we need to set the framework. Now, in this example here, we just configured 4, and of course we have a stakeholder, like for instance customers, and we can edit these. So we can call it what we want. This is customizable to how you see it, and of course different organizational levels here. So we've gone down to like a divisional setting where we can set our targets, and down here we have measures. So this is as many measures as you have in your organization. So if I select one here, say for instance on revenues, provisions, expenses, that's a measure we use. And what you'll see there when I look at this is how I can categorize that measure in a number of different ways. And we see here, for instance, the objectives that rolls into, the stakeholder it applies to, the suppliers, the unit of measure, polarity, the frequency, whether it's a lead or lag, or the type of measure. So we can add or maintain all that master data within this framework here. Now another part of the settings, we can also here bring in objectives. So we've got the number of objectives, again, whatever level we want to. And here's our measures, and we can apply a measure to an objective, and we can add new measures, and we can relate them to create new perspectives in our business. So whatever we choose with weights, and whether they're minimum to maximum, and whether how frequently we're going to measure those. And also what we have here in this example is just a repository of all our measures and the back-end information. So it's like all the, for instance, I may want to add a document against that, a PDF or a Word document. I can disclose textually why this measure is important and what we're going to be doing with it. So it's just a centralized place for like governance of our framework. So that's our settings. Now I'm going to go into a target setting example here, and I'm going down to the retail level. So I'm going down a level here. And what you can see here is that we've still got our stakeholders, by division here. So we're looking at it from, say, a retail division here. And you can see we have our, in the blue here, we can set our targets. And in this case here, it's go over each, it's done by monthly targets. Actuals are coming in, and again here we've got this ability to confirm and have the ability to have a process. And we still have, like for instance, the ability here to investigate like that region there, and everything refreshes for that. And in this example, we have alarm levels. So for instance, if we're getting within 65 units of our target, we might want to be pushed that information. We don't want to have to go looking for information. I want to be told about something when something's going to happen. Now we're just going to go to an approval process, and again, it's using the same toolkit as we did for planning, because it's a process, so we can build in any number of processes here. And you can see here how I can, for instance, approve something here, and it will run a data flow, and it will change, and whether it's locked, and we can lock something and keep control of the process. Again, central administration with a deadline, and we should be able to see an owner of that process. Finally here, just the last part of this here, we're just going to show you just the monitoring aspect of it. And I'm going to go down to the retail level again, and this is the balanced scorecard. It can look any way you like. This one is just by rows, and we can see the objectives. And it's how far we are in realizing that objective, so we can have some measures here that we mean something. We've got targets and actuals and the polarity, the alarm levels, and we then can have things like green to say we're on track, and that there's a trend here saying that we're going upwards, for instance, whereas this one here, we see a trend going downwards. So it draws our eye immediately to what we need to know. Quickly onto a strategy map. This is a very high-level view of the business here. We can see the objectives and the measures and how we're tracking against that at a very high level. We can still drill down into this information. For instance, if I click on that. And one final report here is we're just going to show one more dashboard here. And if I make that, say, a suppliers type one, and again, we can see our objectives and our measures. And also, we've got some of these charts and graphs here, which can show us these different measures here and what the trends are. And there's our alarm levels, so we can very quickly see how close we are to our alarm levels. Okay, well that's a fast show through there of two types there of performance management. Now Scott's going to put up a poll question quickly. So if you wouldn't mind just answering this, there's going to be 4 options, 4 questions. And we'll give you 10 seconds or so, and then we can put the results up on the board. And if you press submit, and it'd just be interesting to see what the general view of the audience is on this topic. Okay, interesting. So improving your budgeting and forecasting process is at 71% there. 43% of business analysis through KPIs, replacing Excel 29%. So thank you for giving us that feedback. Okay, so we're just about closing now, and we're just looking at options for next steps. Because if you are interested in starting this journey and on performance management, and hopefully you can appreciate why you would do this as opposed to continuing in the transactional level, I hope this was useful to you all. Thank you.